Aye, baby, there it is. Breaking news. Breaking news from the Broncos today, solidifying a contract extension with one of their key guys, their core dudes. We talked about this on the channel earlier today, very briefly, a couple days ago. Locked and loaded, baby. I love it. What's going on, guys? Marky here with Marky Sports. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like the video to help me out a lot. If you love all things Denver sports, from the Nuggets to the Avs to the Broncos, and you're a fantasy football nut, you're gonna love some of the content that's on here. So I appreciate it. Appreciate y'all in advance. Let's dive right into it. There's a lot to talk about, guys. The Broncos and guard Quinn Miners have agreed on a 4-year deal, brand new 4-year deal, $80 million extension with $45 million in guarantees. Now, we had talked about this in the previous video about the Broncos needing to lock up uh, those key players, those core players that they have on their team, guys that they've drafted and developed to be able to get paid. And Quinn Miners is exactly that. And I love the timing of it. I love the fact that they didn't string this along, that it didn't become a distraction going into camp, even though there wasn't really any talk or rumors that it could become a distraction somehow. They got it done. And this is a huge move. And I'll tell you guys exactly why. We'll break it down exactly on the channel why it's a huge move. Nobody ever gets excited about guard signings or center signings, right? But they're unbelievably important positions on this team that help build that foundation, especially for a young quarterback, especially when you're not allocating those dollars to a quarterback. I mean, we are giving away a lot with Russ, but we're going to get rid of a lot of that after the season. And this is a player that has played his ass off for the Broncos. He was a third round pick out of Wisconsin Whitewater back in 2020. Right, he didn't end up actually even playing his last year there. I think it was his senior year because of COVID. They didn't even have a Division II ball. He went to the Shrine Game. He went to the Senior Bowl, and he just dominated. And he rose up the ranks. He ended up getting drafted by the Broncos in the third round. Now, I remember this pick. I remember there was a lot of guys. Cecil Lammey was one of the dudes that was on it. That was ecstatic. That said, this guy's a dog. He's a beast. People were concerned that he played in a little bit lesser competition, but he ended up showing what he could do at the Senior Bowl. And he's got a ton of upside and potential and raw talent. And a lot of the times, especially in the past, anytime you've heard that of a Broncos player, it's typically not worked out, right? But they absolutely nailed it with this kid. He was a starter. He was a very, very good player, really from day one. And every single season, he's gotten better and better. And right now, he's borderline elite. And guys, there is still a long way to go with him. I love this move. I love that they got ahead of it for a couple reasons, just like I said earlier about it not being a distraction. But in addition to it, now it allows for them to not have to pay a higher rate and a higher premium going into next year. Because the next guard that ends up getting paid big money is going to be making more than $20 million a year. Right. Um, so I love everything about this move. Everything about this move. I think that it's a 10 out of 10 move, and I'm so happy that the Broncos front office did it. And I think it sets a really good precedent along the locker room. It's a culture builder because not only are you bringing back one of the guys that I'm sure the teammates love, but he really symbolizes everything that it means to be a Bronco, in my opinion, and at least what we want our players to be moving forward. They can't, even though he was a third round pick, he still came out of a small school, had a chip on his shoulder, just busted his ass. He plays with a different level of nasty. If you guys don't know who Quinn Miners is, uh, you're probably not watching this channel, to be honest with you, if you don't know who Quinn Miners is. But go back and watch some more of his film. The guy is an absolute dog. He's a train. He's amazing. So what does this mean? What does this mean for other position? What does this mean for guys like Mike McGlinchey, for Ben Powers, for Garrett Bowles going into next year? This year, it's going to be status quo. We know we're good here, but you cannot allocate a whole lot of your cap and a huge percentage of your money to the offensive line. Right? It would be ideal. That's how you build the best teams, right? You build them in the trenches. That's something that I think will never change. But it's just not feasible. It's not going to be feasible because you can have the best offensive line, but you still have other guys on the roster to pay. And with Garrett Bowles, his deal is going to be done at the end of this year, right? If he has a really good year, which I would expect for him to, the Broncos should look into extending him because it is hard to just find, um, you know, really solid, above average left tackles that you can just plug in and play. If they don't end up doing it, then it's gonna make what they didn't do this offseason look really bad, in my opinion, right? Because if you had a pretty good feeling that you were just gonna go one more year with Garrett Bowles and then get rid of him, why didn't you just do it now? Trade him to get some assets that you could have used in this past draft, and then draft your left tackle of the future. Be able to find somebody that can play immediately in the draft or obviously in free agency. So it would be a huge mistake if we just let him play one more year. You also could have gotten a little bit of cap relief. Who knows where you could have allocated those dollars. So based off of the moves that they make, I don't think that it's going to be one of those things where Garrett Bowles just ends up walking. I think they can look at maybe a 1 or 2 year extension potentially, but it seems like they're going to give it this year and they're going to kind of reassess. Mike McGlinchey has basically after this season, he's essentially gone through most of the guaranteed portion of his contract. He still has guarantees. I don't know the exact figures. I don't have them in front of me. He still has guarantees for next year, but you can still get out of the contract, take some dead cap, but still get some cap relief after this year, I believe. And same with Ben Powers. So you got to be able to look at those guys and say, all right, are you going to extend them? Actually, I just remembered something. My bad. That was, and this is what you're getting. You're always going to get raw content on here. I'm not going to come in here fully scripted all the time. I do recall over the offseason that Ben Powers and Mike McGlinchey did rework some aspects of their contracts, right? So let me actually look that up. Um, and that could have potentially um, made next year guaranteed that they're going to be on the team as well. So, that could happen with a rookie quarterback that's taking a very very small portion of your cap. It allows for you this luxury, but you still got to pay Patrick Surtain, and you still want to be active potentially in free agency next year. So we're gonna see how we have to go. But you know how it is with the cap. You can play a lot of gymnastics with it. You can manipulate it in a lot of different ways. That's for sure. So when looking at Mike McGlinchey, his cap number for this year, yeah, it was reduced quite a bit to 7.4 million. But next year he pushed some of that money forward. So next year his cap number is only 23. So it's not that bad for a right tackle, but you're not going to be able to get out of uh, the contract. If you cut him, you're going to eat a $15 million dead cap against the cap in total. You could actually start to save money in 2026. So you're committed to Mike McGlinchey for another couple of years. Um, and you are, let's check out with Ben Powers. Ben Powers, it's probably going to be a very similar thing. Ben Powers, you could actually move on in technicalities after next year, but he's still at a pretty decent rate at 17.4. If you do cut him next year, you're only saving 2.2. You're eating a big chunk of dead cap. So by the looks of the way his contract is set up, he's going to be locked into 2026. So you got Quinn Miners, Mike McGlinchey, and Ben Powers all locked in on this offensive line for the Broncos for at least the next 3 full seasons, 24, 25, and 26. I think that that doesn't necessarily bode well for Garrett Bowles, and it's not something that we're gonna have to overly worry about now, but it's gonna be a very interesting storyline for sure going into next season because that is going to be a position you're gonna have to address, and it makes a little bit of those depth players that you have in the background, those battles really important too, right? I mean, you got Matt Pert, who's projected right now to be the swing tackle that can play right and left, experienced guy, veteran. But don't be sleeping on Alex Blachowski, guys. I talked about him a lot in the past. He's somebody that really piqued my interest when we signed him as an undrafted free agent last year, and I'm excited to see what did that redshirt year for him do. How is he progressing? And could he potentially be a very dark horse to be the starting left tackle in the future? But either way, it's going to have to be somebody that is young and cheap and overly and very talented. That's going to be the way that you're going to build this. But you've got a really good, solid core foundation with those three players locked up. You got continuity on the offensive line, and I think that now it allows for you to start focusing on other areas of the team. But so far, I love it. One big thing that we're going to have to really hope for as Broncos fans and hope to see is that Zach Strief continues working his magic with Mike McGlinchey because he did have really good moments last year, but there was a lot of moments that were really bad. It seems like he's one of those guys that either looks really, really good or terrible at times. So he's got all the talent in the world, man. First round pick, a few out of Notre Dame. He was highly touted. extremely athletic, really good dude, very good locker room leader, but he can definitely take his play to another level. And injuries are always going to be a concern, but we'll see how he ends up progressing this year. We know he's a good run blocker, but how is he going to block um, this new rookie quarterback that we got under center? Guys, I love this. I would love to know what you guys think. Is it a good deal? Did the Broncos make a mistake um, by maybe, essentially you got to look at it like they could be sacrificing Garrett Bowles in the future for Quinn Miners. Is that a mistake? Is it not? I definitely don't believe that it is. I think it's absolutely the right move. It's actually a better deal than I had thought. I thought it was going to be when we had talked about it in the last video. I thought that it was going to be more than 20 million, probably 20 to 23 million. And obviously, at the end of the day, it's not that big of a difference because that's what Landon Dickerson from the Philadelphia Eagles paid and made him the highest paid guard in history. He signed a 4-year, $84 million deal with 50 million in guarantees. Right, the Broncos came in just under that at 4-year, 80 million with 45 million in guarantees. It is surprising. Maybe they wanted, maybe Quinn Miners just loved being here and he didn't care to be the highest paid guard in the world. But typically, with a guy that was that young, that was, on an upwards trajectory every single year that he's been in the league, you would expect for him to have been the next guy that's in line to be the highest paid guard in NFL history. So great job by the Broncos front office. Kudos to George Payton and the staff for getting that deal done. And it's not only going to pay dividends on the field, but in a couple years you're going to look at it and realize this contract is a bargain. Once the final numbers come out, we can see how it's structured. We can break some of that down. But with 4 years and $80 million and 45 million guaranteed, it really is essentially a 2-year deal. Um, it's probably going to lock him in for more like 3 years. Um, so it's not even like he's going to have to go the full four. But um, this guy is this guy is elite at his position, and I love that they did that. And who knows? Are we going to get Patrick Surtain locked up now? Most likely not with him with the 5th year option, but we'll see. Stay tuned for that one, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is it a good move? What do you think about it? And who do you think should be the next player that the Broncos should lock up or trade for or whatever? Let me know. Otherwise, until then, guys, remember to always, always spend time with the people that you love the most. Beautiful Mile High salute to all of you guys. Peace out.